So, although segregation obviously was outlawed many years ago, our role at the department, and yours certainly too, is to be constantly vigilant about ensuring equal opportunity and access and equity. And I want to tell you about what the department has been doing, what our office has been doing, and what we very much want to be able to continue to do when it comes to civil rights. Secretary Fox, I hope you all know of him. He was a mayor of Charlotte before assuming the position. He's just a terrific guy, and he has made really transportation, opportunity, equity, and justice the signature issue of his tenure at the department. He has instituted something called the Ladders of Opportunities initiative that really seeks to use transportation to connect people and communities to opportunities of every kind. And as was mentioned at the listening session, and I think we've talked about it just here, you know, it is the linchpin to good jobs, to quality education, to affordable housing, to decent health care, to clean and safe environments. And he recognizes that. And he talks all the time, every opportunity he gets, that transportation is not just about getting from point A to point B. It's about connecting communities and individuals to this type of opportunity. He has tasked us in the department with ensuring that all users, riders, citizens, residents can climb up the ladder of opportunity. He has created a Chief Opportunities Officer in the department. This is the first such position in the entire federal government. It's a woman by the name of Stephanie Jones. And she and the secretary and all of us are committed to making diversity, inclusion, and equal access a signature issue at the Department of Transportation. And under the Ladders of Opportunity Initiative, we're not only enforcing civil rights, and I'll talk about that in a minute, but what we've also done, and I very much hope that this can continue into the next administration, groundbreaking programs such as our Tiger Grant program and our Ladder Step initiative and our local hire program, where we have tried to incentivize considerations of opportunity and equity into the grant-making process for transportation decision-making. So getting people who want our federal dollars, and we have a lot of them, to consider these issues at the front end before they get the money, and to make sure that they are integrating these concepts into everything that we do. And it's very much precedent setting, and I very much hope that it can continue to be part of our programming. We also are enforcing the civil rights laws, and my office does a number of things. We obviously ensure that employees in the department and our contracting employees are not discriminated in their employment situation, discriminated against in employment. We also run our Disadvantaged Business Enterprise program, which seeks to make sure that all our transportation federal dollars are not used in a discriminatory manner to small businesses, minority and women-owned businesses. But the thing I want to talk to you about today is our Title VI program and our related ADA program. And I hope you all know what Title VI is. You know, it's fundamental principle that's been around since 1964, part of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, and John F. Kennedy, when he was thinking about the Civil Rights Act of 1964, in 1963, has this great quote that I always like to remind people of. Simple justice requires that public funds to which all taxpayers of all races contribute not be spent in any fashion which encourages, entrenches, subsidizes, or results in racial discrimination. That's the bottom line. You get federal money, you cannot discriminate. You know, the devil is in the details, right? How do we enforce that? You know, we have stepped up our enforcement and compliance. We want to make sure that stakeholders know their rights and responsibilities. But here's the thing. You all know that I hope you know, that you can file a Title VI complaint with us. You know, that is something that you always have the option to do that. What we're trying to do, and when you do that, we will investigate it and you know, make a finding. But here's the thing, we don't want to have to wait. We don't want to have to force you to file that complaint. What we're trying to do is get at these issues on the front end and try to get the recipients of our federal funds to think about this way before you come to them with a complaint. And that is something that the Secretary has done every day that I have been there. He is talking to the people who run our 10 operating agencies and to try to get them to say, it's very expensive, it can cause delay when we get a Title VI complaint at the end. So it really behooves all of us if we get out ahead of this and make sure that communities are engaged at the front end and that people are thinking about justice and equity and access and fairness at the very beginning. What we are trying to do is making sure that the recipients of the federal funds, we're talking about highway funds, transit funds, railway funds, that they're considering opportunity and equity at the beginning of the process. That they, at the beginning, are asking the right questions. Who's benefiting? Who's burdened? And that there is robust and meaningful community engagement of the communities impacted by the decision. Now, I wanted to say a couple things about this. One thing that we are very much stressing is to know your history in your community. We are all dealing with the issues of the day, okay? You know, the recent proposal to do this to that expressway, the recent decrease in services in that bus line. I think it is a very good idea for you, to the extent that you can trace it, that you can learn about it, is to know how that highway first got there, okay? And that is something that the Secretary talks about from a very personal basis, because growing up in Charlotte, he lived in a community that during his childhood was essentially cut off by 2 highways that came in. And he talks about the kind of economic devastation that that caused to his African-American neighborhood growing up. And he remembers that this is very personal to him. And if you look back and you know, can trace with a straight line the first decisions that were made, and you know, that were made by, you know, people in the past, what we're telling transportation officials today is, you know, that was then, this is now. Don't perpetuate the problem. Be part of the solution, okay? And, you know, this is something, as a civil rights lawyer, I'll be honest with you, getting our arms around this history is very difficult. We all know a lot about the history of voting rights in this country. We know a lot about the history of housing segregation in this country. There is a lot of research and study that's been done on the role of the federal government in perpetuating housing discrimination through redlining practices, restrictive covenants. It is, you know, you could Google that very easily and find, you know, where it was going on, every area implicated. You cannot do that with respect to highway decisions, with respect to transportation decisions. And so one of the things that we are, you know, asking for your assistance in is, as you know, come to the table with what is going on today, try to put it in the perspective of, this was done 50 years ago. It came through a neighborhood. It continues to disadvantage that neighborhood, okay? So what is the solution? How are we going to finally ameliorate what that did 50 years ago with the decisions that you, transportation decision makers today, are able to make? And so knowing the history of these official decisions, I think, is extremely important as we talk about making sure that everybody is equally benefited and burdened from transportation practices.